Well, everybody, it's it's finally time. We're gonna have to talk about it. I've poured myself a glass of whiskey, and I'm just gonna get right into it. Sonic '06, or simply as it's officially called, Sonic the Hedgehog, released in 2006. Oh God, I remember this opening part with the rings. I'd fall right through them. Sometimes, this game is horrible. It is awful. It is, it's hard to put into words, honestly. It is the most broken, janky piece of garbage I've ever played, and I was really excited for it, to be honest with you. Because ever since Adventure 2, we never really had a proper follow-up to, Adventure 3. It's like, okay, what happened? What's the next big adventure-type game? We essentially had Sonic Heroes and Shadow, and we were kind of like doing like side stories and stuff, and not really a full adventure thing where we're adding to the lore of the world. And well, basically, this was the game that presented itself as the solution for that. We now had the new character Silver and a new antagonist called, that looked like Shadow, called Mephistopheles. And we're like, okay, cool. There's a whole new lore that's going to take place. And it was super exciting, when the game, I saw the trailers, and I think they used like Pirates of the Caribbean, music for the main thing. It was a really exciting time. 2007 was a super, or 2006, 2007 was a super exciting year. Halo 3 was coming out. All these games were kind of reaching their trilogies, their max potentials. And we were so excited to see, what was going on with the next gen of gaming. It was incredible. And, wow, Sonic 06, it is not the Adventure 3 that I wanted it to be, that's for sure. Where do I even begin with this dumpster fire? First of all, the game is just straight up broken. It is just not fun to play. I'm sure there's a development story on exactly what happened here, but I was sort of optimistic because it showed you mainly as playing as Sonic, and it was very, focused on, the adventure style gameplay where it's like you play as Sonic, Shadow, and the new character Silver. And so, my perspective was that Silver looked like, okay, this is going to be a cool character. He's from the future. Like, every character from the future is automatically cool. Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. Technically, I guess, Samurai Jack. Like, every character that knows how bad things are going to get usually are like the cool, soft-spoken, characters who, like, I know what's up. I'm going to let you in on the secret. And Silver is a whiny little bastard. He just like complains about everything. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand why the world is ruined in the future. He doesn't understand why it's not Sonic's fault, and he calls him the Iblis Trigger, even though he had nothing to do with it. And it's actually again a feint by Mephistopheles. Honestly, there is some pretty good lore in this game, but it's all filtered out by just bad characters. And of course, the Silver boss fight is, you get stuck in a corner with his telekinesis power. Just like, it's no use. And even playing as Silver is not fun. It sounds cool in theory that you can stop a bunch of bullets and missiles using telekinesis and shoot it back at them. But when the game is just broken and janky, and the frame rate will just clip under, like atrocious speeds. And I think it's so funny that they didn't bring this to the Wii at all, even though it's technologically one of the worst games, in the series, and it used to be multi-platform. This game probably could run on the Wii, which is, the joke and the point. The other thing too is I hate I know they were trying to go for the adventure DNA because they brought back the hub world, which is like in a weird Venetian kind of area. And the NPCs are like photorealistic, and it's very unnerving. And all of these side quests and the mannerisms of the characters and the mocap, or I don't even want to say mocap, but the animations are just abysmal, and everything looks out of place. The voice acting, well, the voice acting actually isn't bad, but the music, oh well. The main theme of the game is good, and there actually are quite a couple bangers in this. So I would say even the music is actually not bad. It's kind of like impossible for Sonic games to have bad music. But like the animations, the movement, the fact that they're not voiced, the menus are so bare bones. What I hate seeing in games is these little floaty orbs of light that you collect that just seem so lazy, and they just seem like stock Unity assets almost. I hate talking to the NPCs in this game. They're just awful and soulless, and they just have this dead look in their eye, and they're hyper realistic, while Sonic, like, I'm thinking back to Sonic Adventure 2, where their president was at least, somewhat cell shaded ish or stylized. Here they all look like real people, and it's very unnerving. And speaking about unnerving humans, the fact that Elise is also hyper realistic, and the fact that as soon as the cutscene ends, I mean, the CG cutscenes are really well done. They're very beautiful, great cinematography, and then it cuts to gameplay, and immediately you see Elise's legs turn into giant carrots. They're just orange, and like the color shading and everything just immediately goes down the drain. I remember starting this game up thinking, oh, I might be in for something, actually good, and then everything immediately goes down the drain. Everything, and as soon as it turns to gameplay, you just feel this cringe sense of this game is absolutely broken. And then Sonic and Elise have a romantic relationship, and I'm not exaggerating that. It's canon, and it's so I need to take a drink. I mean, I might be able to even like forgive it if there was some chemistry, but she is literally a princess. A princess in distress who basically does nothing. Yes, she has like this fire power within her or whatever, but nothing really comes of it. Also, Eggman's design in this game is actually fairly interesting. I like how they turned his little buttons into actual little like medallions and stuff. And on the part, I think Eggman actually, in terms of his voice performance, is actually pretty good in this game. Again, those are like the saving graces. Well, I can't call them graces because they don't save this game. It's still really bad. Speaking of which, the lore in the story is actually interesting. There's this ancient civilization that basically worships the god of fire and the god of time or darkness or something. And they end up combining into each other and creating this one entity. It's a really unique kind of take on mythology, which I find super interesting. But everything goes down the drain because the game is just so poorly made. It feels broken. There are times when you'll be running and you'll slide out of like the running thing you're running in and immediately die. There are quick time events that immediately kill you. There are things where you're trying to pick them up and they jitter all over the place. There are things where you're being pushed around. The game is broken. It is so broken, and until you actually understand, until you play it, you will not understand how broken it is. It's the fact that Sonic starts and stops really fast. The gravity is weird. You'll hit an enemy and like gravity will go to like half strength for some reason. You'll get frame rate dips when there's a lot of explosions on screen. There's just a lot of things that just go wrong in this game, and it's really frankly unfortunate. And because of this, actually, I do highly recommend you watch a Let's Play of it, because watching people break the game even more than it's already broken is extremely entertaining. And there are some honestly ridiculously stupid glitches that just like, this works for some reason. Yeah, the AI is awful. So in a traditional like Sonic level, like you kind of go through a waves of enemies or whatever, and then you have these new sections when you go super fast, and you kind of you can do L and R kind of, and it lets you kind of dash, but you're kind of stuck on this super fast track basically. I it's hard because this is a game I want to like, and because the music and the characters are not terrible, it's actually salvageable. For example, but it's not because of the gameplay. But for example, there's one scene which is honestly so well written, and it's about Shadow Mephistopheles. So Mephistopheles is this new character who basically is released from his prison, and because Shadow touches his artifact, it takes on Shadow's form. So that's why he looks like that. Mephistopheles, though, is this ancient demon thing who becomes the main antagonist, manipulating things behind the scenes besides Eggman. And so similar to the Adventure series, you play as Sonic, Shadow, and Silver in their own campaign. So Sonic is very straightforward. He's after Eggman, Shadow is after Mephistopheles, and Silver is after the Iblis Trigger, and to stop the calamity that destroys the world. But he's also the dumbest character in the game somehow, and I absolutely hate the fact that he's written like that. I think him and Blaze should trade places, and Blaze is also the other character who appeared in Sonic Rush, I believe, and she's a cat creature who is also from the future and is kind of, this soft-spoken, stoic kind of character, which I expected Silver to be more like, and he's just not like that at all. I like his design, though. I do like Silver's design, and it's such a shame that he's just like that. And oh god, I remember there's this one level where you have to literally carry Elise, and you have the Hedgehog and the hyper realistic, human Elise in his arms, and it is so weird. It is so, and the game is just not good. And you get these things, and they, every time you defeat an enemy, they get this little glowing thing that feels like a cheap, pre-made Unity asset and stuff like this. And god, I remember I was actually playing, I think, the multiplayer with someone, and I didn't tell them which Sonic we were playing, and they're like, why is this game so broken? Why is this so garbage? The thing isn't doing what I want him to. I'm like, you realize we're playing Sonic 06, right? And they're like, what? They're like, no. And I was like, oh my god. So funny. So Silver is unfortunately wasted potential, but the one, I was talking about the one salvageable scene in this game is with Shadow and Mephistopheles. So there's this one part where Mephistopheles shows him a vision of the future, and there's this really great line of dialogue. It's something that a demon really would say. Is he says, basically, because Shadow is the ultimate life form, he says, people will fear you, Shadow, for your power, and they will try to control it and control you, and in doing so they will confine you to this device. And as he says, let me show you a vision of the future, and it shows Shadow on this kind of like technological cross where basically he's basically been turned into this captivity where he basically is martyred. And because of his own power, he's basically set as, too powerful to be left alive and all this stuff. And Shadow is like, I don't care what the future holds. I'm still going to fight for humanity, even if they destroy me in the process, adding to the Christian imagery of the cross. And I was like, and it has this big triumphant orchestral thing, play as he says it. And I'm like, okay. I was like, little me in my brain, I was like, okay, now the game's gonna get good, and it immediately went back to sucking and not being good. But that one scene was like so close to redeeming it, and is so honestly Kino. Again, I remember seeing like the what do you call the teasers for this game, the E3 demo for 06, and thinking it looked incredible. The game I had in my mind versus what this became is so completely different. It showed Sonic going in that high-speed chase scene, but with all of Eggman's robots. And I honestly do love the redesign of Eggman robots. They're kind of meant to be more HD, high def, more sort of realistic. They have these fast jetpacks, armed, chain guns on their arms. And now that I think about it, they actually look very similar to Gamma's design from Adventure. So again, they went back to that design and modernized it, and has almost a Y2K design to it. They're all white and black, and it looks so cool. And the teaser looks so cool. Just Sonic racing against these hyper fast death machines that were able to basically chase him. So you don't need Metal Sonic. You have all these other machines to do it. And it's so cool. And that's so not anything close to what this game is. But yeah, I'm gonna say though, and it's not a major spoilers, but the one saving grace of this game for it being so abysmally bad is that from a strict story canon perspective, what happens at the end of this game actually essentially says that this game does not exist, and it actually erases everything that happens. So in the canon lore, fortunately, this human hedgehog relationship never happened. This game never existed, and I'm not sure if the writers were self-aware of what they were doing, but it was the best thing to come out of this game that officially this game never happened. The one difference between the gameplay style, Sonic just goes fast, has his homing attacks. Silver has his telekinesis, which is really cool. The difference with Shadow is that he doesn't have guns in this game, but he does have certain vehicles he gets, like motorcycles and this kind of car with cannons on it, I guess. So that's how they differentiate them. The level layouts are also different. But again, I hate Silver because basically Mephistopheles, I forget how I think he uses the Chaos Emeralds to get back to the past or something. I forget how it works exactly. But basically he ends up in this timeline. Mephistopheles is like, hey, that blue hedgehog is the bad guy. And he just believes him. He does not bother until Shadow confronts him. He does not bother questioning if Sonic is actually the person who some other guy said he was. But yeah. Oh man, so much wasted potential with Silver. If I were to rewrite him, I would have him be this stoic kind of, this stoic character who said, you don't really understand how the powers of chaos really work. You don't know what you'll unleash upon this world. And it's like, I know what the world is going to be like in the future. If you don't listen to me, if you don't, kill Elise or something, you will release the Iblis Trigger and you will destroy the world. And that should have been their confrontation. And Silver should have been this like badass from the future. He could have had, his loves and designs on his body could have had some kind of technological understanding of the chaos control magic system, so that he actually understands how chaos control actually works from a technological perspective. It could be half cybernetic or something. That would be kind of cool, or somehow related to chaos. Again, there's just so much potential for Silver that just went totally unrealized. And yeah, again, I think the way you slow down is too abrupt in this game. The speed feels off, everything feels off, and the story itself feels off. It's just not good. It's just very mid at best. And again, it's like not terrible because some of the character interactions are fun and are like classic and whatever, but they just don't make up for the absolute garbage gameplay. And this is the part where I think the fan base really split between, yeah, I don't care how bad the gameplay is, I just want to see my characters regardless. And then people are like, no, I actually need my games to be playable / good. And this is where the downhill trend really started. And there are other Sonic games after this, like Generations, Colors, Forces, Boom, and I know I'm forgetting one. Unleashed. God. And yeah, I don't really know if I can talk about any of those games because honestly, I never liked them. because again, the gameplay they fix, it's better than this, but it's not by much really. And they started, I think they outsourced it to Dimps is the company they're called, and they started to make this thing where Sonic goes super super fast, and it's more like the old school 2D Sonic. So they gave the fans what they want instead of innovating, and I just did not appreciate it. It was just not good. So I really don't think I'm even going to review those games. They just are not good or even worth complaining about, honestly. I think Sonic Unleashed was the closest thing to a good Sonic game, because despite it being hyper fast or whatever, it was still very focused and fun. And then of course the Hedgehog levels, completely destroyed that. And then Sonic became more of an icon and a mascot. And, most recently they've released Sonic, what's it called? Frontiers, which, was so broken. And I had a little bit of hope for that too. I mean, people are liking it because of the music. Again, it's the only thing that's saving this series is the music, and Jen Sunyo and Crush 40 and Julian K and all the rest of them. Or if they even still work on these projects, and I'm not sure if they even do. Yeah, even Frontiers, they just basically copied a lot of things from Breath of the Wild. You still have the Dimps engine basically running Sonic, where he goes ultra super fast and slows down, and just nothing feels like anything has weight to it. Nothing feels like, his homing attack is supposed to have a trail and trail off and have to have residual momentum. But if you just lay off the controller, he just ends up stopping. It feels like such a lazy game, honestly. And every Sonic game feels lazy to me, and I'm so disappointed that I wanted Frontiers to be good, but I saw, the trailer, and it was like, this is a bad tech demo. This is a tech demo, right? This is awful. It looks broken. They cannot make Sonic games anymore. They just cannot do it. And they're relying on people to buy them anyway. And it's awful because it will never, ever improve. And even despite that, there are some good new characters in Frontiers, like Sage. And it's like, I want to like this, but it's really, really hard, honestly. Ugh. But yeah, this is where you see the beginning and death of Sonic the Hedgehog. God, I wish that this game was good. I wish we had Adventure 3, but this is pretty much the closest thing we're going to get to it. And it's just not going to be better than this. It's just not going to return. And I just know it's just never going to be as good as Adventure 2. Again, some of these scenes are well done. The voice acting is well done. But it's just... It just can't make up for all of the other weird, bad stuff in it. And this is kind of where Sonic really ended for me. This is kind of where the real story kind of finished off, I guess, until Frontiers. I might have to play Frontiers a bit more, I guess, but I got really upset that it has a really bad cycle of you become Super Sonic and then you lose it and you have to do it all over again. But even some of the cutscenes here, they still have that old magic, which is so hard for me to drop this and just dispense with this, but there's nothing I can do. Oh god, I forgot. The main thing that is awful about this game, that I just, in terms of quality, if you haven't gotten how bad this game is by this point, the load screens are multiple seconds long. And some of the load screens are for the cutscene introducing the boss that lasts 3 seconds, and after that cutscene ends, it has another load screen. And it's just, are you kidding me? You'll have 3 load screens just to get into a boss battle. It's abysmal. And it just feels like if you're just off by one little second or percent or whatever, you just immediately fall down. There's so many things broken in this game. There's a famous clip of Game Grumps where Knuckles ends up getting stuck while gliding in the final like levels, and he just ends up ascending, and I think it's Aaron who absolutely loses his mind. He's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. But yeah, this is the game that absolutely unironically breaks people. It breaks them down and turns them into animals. This is the worst Sonic game ever made. And I think it is, and will continue to be the worst, not only because it's made bad, but because some of the qualities of the game are redemptive and made well. It's the fact that they put so much money into writing a good story and then ultimately making a game that controls like trash. And yeah, even the intro cutscene for Shadow is absolutely one of the coolest things, where he jumps in front of this snowy base and the machines are firing at him and he takes them out with chaos control. Like, it's so cool. And then you play the game, you're like, wow, I want to die. And of course, like every classic Sonic game, you kind of get, all the stories done, and for the final mission, they all come together and defeat the big bad, and you get to play as all the characters, and they're each individual broken, janky levels. It's just shocking how downhill the series has gone, and this is really the epitome of it. Anyway, should you ever wish to play Sonic 06, God help you, and may you enter in onto that tragedy on your own volition. It's not the worst game in the world. It's just so it has essences of quality in it, which makes it almost worse in that case, where it's like, this could have been good, but it's just so bad as it is that it's just not worth salvaging. I think there's someone online who's like trying to do a salvage job of this game and trying to like code it better to make it actually playable. But even then, there are inconsistencies with the story and Silver as a character, and just everything else about it is just very mid, if that. Anyway, this game was probably the most disappointing game I've ever played, because I was actually kind of excited for it. And it simply is, it's my headstone, or my standard rather, for what a bad game looks like, for what a broken game looks like. Anyway, I fully salute all the Sonic players who can play this and enjoy it. Good for you guys. I can't do it. I simply can't. It's just not my thing, and I'll even say that the following games, Generations and Unleashed and all the rest of them, were again all passable, all fine, all this is okay, but I would almost prefer Sonic 06 over those games, because at least it tried to do something with the story, even if it was broken, and the next games just focused on gameplay, and oh my god, the worst characters. Chip from Sonic Unleashed, I wanted to murder Chip. I'm not going to get into those games, but I mean, very briefly, Generations, it was like, oh cool, we're just playing Sonic for the sake of playing Sonic, there's no story happening here. You had Sonic All-Star Racing, you have all these spin-off Sonic games that are all very safe and whatever. You had Sonic Boom, you had Sonic Colors, where it's like there's a amusement park on this space station. That was actually kind of fun, or these alien worlds. That was fun because the voice acting was actually very soulful. And I remember for the game, I actually kept swapping between the Japanese and the English voices, because I thought Eggman's Japanese voice was really good, but Tails' English voice was much better, if I recall. But yeah, the Sonic series for me really died after this, and yeah, I salute you, Sonic fan base. Anyway, I think I'm done mourning on this. I will go no further into it, and should you ever have to play this game, God help you. Good night, everyone.